Hey everyone, it's Pam Jorgensen here, and Cheryl and Bria and I have decided to work together to make a couple tutorials. So in your card kits, we are using the Ornate Thank You stamp set, and we will also be using the beautiful dies out of, oh, I forgot it, I put it on the floor. Out of the Ornate Borders dies that go with that, and you can see those yummy dies. All right, so let's get started. I have chosen to use, let's see, which sentiment. For All You Do is the sentiment I'm going to use out of this particular set. In your card kits, you would have gotten a piece of old olive cardstock. This is just basically folded, cut in half of an A4 sheet and folded in half. I'm just going to bold and fold that while I have that here. So that's 4 1/4 by 11. Then you also have a piece of the designer series paper from the Ornate Gardens kit. Now this one is 5 1/2 by 4 1/2 inches, and you can see that that is a little bit wider than the actual card project, and there is actually a reason for that. So I'm going to show you that in a second. We are also using the ribbon, so you would have some of this beautiful I think this is terracotta tile ribbon that coordinates with the Ornate Garden, so we'll be using that as well today. So you will need to have your paper trimmer for this particular project. So you're going to need to have that handy as well. What you're going to first do is you are going to choose which side of the paper you want face up on your card project. And this is called the angled card. And so what I like to do is I actually like to figure out where I want that point to go. And that determines how far I'm going to swing this piece of designer series paper. I'm going to match it up to that corner, the upper left-hand corner, right there. I'm just going to swing that down. And I want that to come down quite deep. There we go, probably about that far. Now I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to take a pencil or a pen or whatever you have. Now, so that you can see it, I'm going to use some of this hot pink, bright pink. Whoops, move that back, it slipped. And what I do is I take a pencil and I just draw where I want to cut that paper off. So you can see there, I've actually cut that off. Now I am going to put a T up here as the top because sometimes when you go to put it back together, it gets a little bit crazy and you have to swing it around and figure that out. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to cut across the top piece of your designer series paper first. So I'm going to put that into my paper trimmer. I'm going to line up the cutting track with my mark. And I'm just basically cutting that away. And you can save these scraps for something else. There we go. And because I've marked that, I then know that that's going to become the top of my card. Now, interesting, I must have hit the ink on there and it's gone through. So don't use permanent ink on your projects, just a little bit of FYI. Now, the other thing that you have in your card kit is you will have 2 early espresso pieces that we have die cut for you. Now, when you use the particular die in that Ornate Garden set, it actually looks like this. And when you cut out your strip, you're going to find, excuse me, that you're actually going to need to trim the ends so that it pops free from the piece of cardstock that you cut it out of. So I'm just going to cut those loose for the moment, and I'll end up trimming those in just a minute. And I'm not worried about this end one because it's going to get cut off. Okay, so what we're gonna do, what I found works the best, is to actually stamp your cardstock first in case you make a mistake. So I'm going to be using my early espresso ink and For All You Do, and I'm going to stamp that down into the bottom part of my card. Now you may change where you put it, but I'm going to put mine down here at the bottom. And because that's photopolymer, I'm gonna hold it because I don't have a mat underneath of it, but these seem to stamp okay without the mat. So for all you do. Now I'm going to come back in with that piece of Designer Series paper, and I am going to put Snail on the back. I'm just going to get it all ready here, just so I have lots of sticky on there. And I'm going to line up my little frame. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to line up the bottom. And I like to have a few of those polka dots sticking out. And the other thing that I'm looking for as I'm lining it up is I'm lining up in between the little flower sections, okay? And then I'm just going to take my snips and just snip that off. Oops, obviously I didn't get enough snail down there, so we'll add some more. Come back to that section that I just snipped off, of course. There we go. Now I'm gonna come up here, and this one isn't gonna matter as much because it's going to be covered with your flower design. So making sure that I have sticky, got enough to close to the edge. I am now going to add that second frame, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look where it's going to be the prettiest at the top. There we go, and I'm gonna put that down. Well, that was a little silly. There we go. And I'm going to snip that again. And when you come down to this corner, if you just snip underneath at an angle, if you, it really doesn't matter because this corner isn't gonna show. But if you were worried about it showing, you would bring this one down further and then carry that one across and just marry those together in that corner. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go through and add a little bit more snail right over the top of that frame and come back and put that onto the top of my card. And you may find that you are going to need to do a little bit of trimming up in this top corner where it may overhang. And that's fine, that's not a worry. Okay. And there's our, that's how easy that card comes together. So in your card kit, you would have also received some terracotta sprigs, okay? And those have come from the sprig punch. I've just punched them already just to make it quick and fast. And you will have also had the large daisy die. And I chose to use crushed curry because we do not have the new in color bumblebee yet, whatever that might be. So I've just cut a couple of those to have those ready. And then out of our poppies die, so this is out of a totally different die cut set, I have used this little die for this early espresso center of my flower. So let's assemble those so they're all ready to go. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just going to take a dimensional, and I like to actually alternate my petals. So you can see I'm twisting them and alternating them. And I'm popping that up, and that just gives that nice layered look behind there. And for this little middle bit, I'm just going to pop up those little edges because that's fun. It gives a little bit of texture to your project. And then I am just going to add a little drop of glue. Well, maybe I am. Here we go. There we go. Just add a little drop of glue right down in the middle. And look at how cute that is going to be. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry for a minute while we're working on our next piece of the project. All right, so coming back, now I'm gonna show you a little trick. So I like to use just a little piece of scrap cardstock. It doesn't matter what size it is. Could be Designer Series paper, could be a scrap of whatever you have handy. Now, I am going to want to make, let me get a couple of these things out of the way so you can see. I want to make a little loop-de-loop that goes behind my daisy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold my ribbon and I'm going to spread my fingers apart a little bit. And you can see that I'm actually tucking that in between my fingers to hold it. And I'm going to come back just like that. Okay, so I've just wrapped it around my fingers, and what that's going to give me, I'm going to do it again for you. I'm just going to wrap, wrap, and wrap, and I'm going to cut that. I'm not going to worry about if it's pretty right now, just cut that off. What this is going to give me when I take that off my fingers is it's going to give me a nice little loop that then I can use as a base to decorate my card project. Okay, can you see that? And then my secret is to use a stapler. Now you may have any kind of stapler at home that you might have in your stash. This is an old Stampin' Up! One that we don't have anymore, but if you can get one like that, it works really, really well, a little handheld one. So now I'll just trim my ends really pretty. And I might make that one go the other way. I think I grabbed my oldest pair of scissors. Whoops. Good gravy. There we go. Okay. Whoops, I missed a loop. I pulled that a little bit, so I'm going to give him another staple just so he holds in place. What this does is it gives me a base to actually glue that ribbon down so that I don't have to worry about trying to get that ribbon to attach to paper. I always say never take my cards apart because they are not pretty underneath. So there we go. There's that. Now I have those two little terracotta sprigs that I punched out, but I'm going to hold off on putting those on yet because I want to figure out where I want my daisy to go. Now see how easy that is? Now dimensionals do not like ribbon. So normally I would say, right, we're just going to stick a dimensional in the middle, but that does not work. So I'm going to have to look and figure out where I want my my daisy to go, and then I'm going to just tuck a little dimensional right next to that ribbon. Whoops, where'd you pop in from? And I personally like to add a little bit of glue to the top of my dimensionals, and then that way I know that my element is not going to fall off for the recipient. And I'm just going to hold that down for a minute until that glues in place. And while we are waiting, I am quickly going to grab some of my glue dots. I love glue dots. They are the best little tool. And here's a little trick. I tie a ribbon really loosely around there, and then that holds that little bit of paper. And I'm just going to stick a glue dot on the end of my sprig and just tuck that in underneath. And because I have a glue dot on there, it's not going to matter. I like to use my scissors, but okay, and I might put another one. Where am I going to put this one? I might put this one right here with this little bit of, there we go. And then you can finish that off. How cute is that? And you can finish that off with a few gems. I have quite the disaster happening today. Good gravy. All right, so I like to just tuck gems where it needs just a little bit of bling. Now you may be using the gilded gems that come with the Ornate Garden. But I'm just using the clear ones right now because my other ones seem to have walked away. There we go. There's the front of your cute little card. How easy is that? Now the inside, I'm showing you the picture. I'll be showing you the picture of the inside of your card. You're just going to stamp and you're going to use the two little daisies to make the inside. So how cute and simple is that? I hope you enjoyed that card and happy creating.